ridiculous. Oh my goodness. You can hear me? Yay! Oh my goodness. Well, you heard me get frustrated. Oh my goodness. You can hear me? Yay! All right. Oh my goodness. Well, you heard me get frustrated. Oh my goodness. You can hear me? Yay! I have just about had it with Restream. Bear with me. About had it with Restream. Yay. My goodness. Okay, well, 12 minutes late. I'm going to do the intro again and cut off the beginning of this fiasco. And if any of you are on Facebook, can you say, hey, I'm on Facebook and I see you? Because this thing is just no complaining, right? Okay. Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 23, I think, of Fabrically Speaking Live. I'm your host, Claire Rowley, inventor of the Creative Feet and Octi-Hoops. And I am going to be talking about a rubber husband. If you have not heard of one before, well, I had not either until last week. However, I have been using this product to open jars for years, and it is shelf paper or shelf rubber that you can buy at just about any store that sells kitchen supplies. And it's sticky though. It wants to stick to your sewing machine and stick to everything, which is why it's great for opening jars. It makes your fingers really sticky. I talked about it last week and I've been thinking about it. How can I make a rubber husband more fun than just making an empty pillow, which is pretty much what they are. And you could actually use it as well as a pot holder if designed right. So I was thinking about using some quilted material for the top and then having the rubber be on the bottom. But I also feel like using cotton fabric, it's kind of slippery on your hands. So I'm going to make it so that I can slide my hand inside to use the rubber husband. And also because my friend Terry is physically challenged, she only has the use of one hand. So I feel like I should make it so she can just slide her hand in, put it up like that, and open the jar. Now, she can't hold the jar, and I have really short fingers, so I can't really get my hands around a jar either. So I was thinking it would be good to have a pad for the jar to sit on that has the rubber on the bottom and on top so that it sticks to the counter and to the jar. But we can do like a border and make it a little bit more interesting. Now, the challenge is sewing with that sticky, rubbery consistency and not having it just stop as our sewing machine tries to feed it through. So whenever I think about something not feeding through, I think Octi-Hoops, because the Octi-Hoops eliminate the feeding process and allow us to just move things around. And then I was thinking, what a cool shape for a rubber husband. Wouldn't it be cool to have a octagon shaped rubber husband instead of just a square or a plain old ordinary circle? So then I thought it's got to be more fun than just plain old ordinary fabric. So I pulled out this. These are some of come on, brain, don't fail me now. Lorelei's Designs fabric. And it just so happened that there's a bunch of dogs on this, and a lot of them look like guys to me. And I was thinking, you know, if it were a husband, he'd be really happy and proud of himself to help you open a jar. So we could actually embroider the fabric a little bit, but that's going to make it stiff as well. So a little embroidery to enhance it. or I can lay this down on another fabric and quilt. So I need you to help me pick one, because this is not easy, as you can see. I was thinking though, a lot of times people talk about their husband being in the doghouse. Where'd the doghouse one go? There. And this guy would be out of the doghouse, wouldn't he? If we can use our little rubber husband and we think of him. So what do you think? Should we embroider through one or quilt, or maybe combine them all? Now, if we slide our hand in to this, it can have embroidery on the outside. It won't stiffen it because it'll be on top of our hand and our hand will be below it. This isn't that much embroidery, and I want to embroider today. So I'm not going to have you choose because there's just too many and they're all delightful. But if you're looking to get a fabric like this, go to loreleisdesigns.com, or you can, I'll put a link to the description or in my description once I'm done going live, and figure out why every time I create a live it's not working. So you guys like the doghouse idea? And I was thinking this would be a really nice fabric to go along with it. I need to iron it. And I also thought, well, I could do more than one here today, show you the process of sewing one that's just a solid fabric. And you know how much I love sunflowers, so I could definitely have a few of these and I would not mind them being in my kitchen. So, hello Amy, Brenda, Diane Lee. Thanks for saying there was no sound. Mom's Brain from Oregon. What a great screen name. Linda. I'm so glad you guys were persistent and didn't give up on me. And I sent 2 emails and did not get a response. So I don't know what's going on, and life is just really, really busy. I had all kinds of problems. That was just one of them. So one of the products that we have that eliminates stickiness of items is our Hold Light Stabilizer. So when you look at this, it comes in a bag, and it's 27 inches by either 10 or 20 feet. And it's got a matte surface and then a shiny surface. Now, shiny usually means sticky, but not with the Hold Light. It's really slippery. So it will prevent this from grabbing hold of our sewing machine or getting held back by the sewing machine. And we can go ahead and make one real quick like everyone else is doing it. Or I can just jump right into embroidery. Should I jump right into the embroidery or be a nice person for those who came in just to make a rubber husband? So if I want to make an octagon shaped one, I think I'd like it to be this size. And, or should it be that big? Decisions. I would have had one made had my entire system locked up today. Which I have no idea why that happened. And it happened yesterday too. But then I am really testing out or pushing my brand new computer to the new heights. Not only are the octahoops great for embroidery and quilting, but you can also use them as a pattern. If you want to do needle turn applique, you have the outer side and the inside, so that's 2. but you get 3 hoops, 3 different sizes, so 6 different size templates to use for looking at your design and seeing how it's going to look. And that's why I have it off from the side, because I like that look more than that look. I hope I'm making sense. Now, if you don't want to actually use the edge of this as you're measuring, you can take a pen and just draw around. Seems too big, the little one? Does that still seem too big? Hi, Janice. Thank you for being so patient and for being glad that you hear my voice. I like to draw on the fabric. I think I get a more accurate cut. I'm pushing down so hard because this used to be dull, but this is now a brand new blade and super sharp. It's easier to cut standing up, looking above and looking down, and I'm not. I'm sitting at an angle, which made me not cut that accurate. So I'm trying to figure out what this is called when you can see through it. And what I want to do is I want to have this be 2 so that I can slide my hand in. So if I go like this, that's a pretty backside. Is this making sense to you guys? Can you tell what I'm trying to do? I make my pillows for the couch this way. It's a double piece of fabric. And that way I can take it off and wash it. That's not the goal here. I don't want to move this. Take the handle out and put it over here. Have any of you used your octahoops to make a pattern before like this? I hope the octagon shape is a good shape for this. I wish I could hear you talk. So this is the little one. So I think this is going to make sense now. I put this on top of that. Looks like a good amount. Now I'll go a little bit more. Want to be able to get your whole hand in there. So this is my take on a rubber husband. The other side is going to be this. You can see it's really slippery. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this. Set that aside. Everybody in my family is getting a rubber husband this Christmas, because this is a quick and easy thing as long as you know how to handle sticky fabrics. Try not to waste any of this. My blade is really loose. I think I put it together wrong. Oh my gosh, my head. Well, you can see my gray hair coming in. There we go. We had a truck out there, and I'm not sure if we can hear it, but if it comes through on the edit, I'll know what I heard. So I'm actually probably going to have a couple of these to take home that are just octagon shaped because I like the look of it more than just a square. Today's episode is going to be fun because I'm not just going to make one, I'm going to embroider as well. I don't want these fabrics to slip. I could take the time to sew around, and I am going to fold this so that it lines up with one of the points on the octagon. Definitely not straight. Use a presser. And I want to make sure that this is really washable, so I'm going to stitch this down. Take it to the sewing machine and use the satin edge foot. I've already got gold thread in the machine. That's nice. The satin edge foot is the foot that helps you sew straight. It has this little guide, little wire that you can line up with the edge of your fabric and then position your needle however far away you want for a perfect top stitch. What's the difference between a top stitch and an edge stitch? You can see my chaos down here. I'm going to put this away. And this is my little catch-all that I filmed, which is great for putting my presser in to keep it from rolling onto the floor. Got all kinds of things that are rolling around here. Okay, tidy workspace is more efficient. I'm going to select a stitch, and I want it to be close to the edge so that this is not going to ravel. Let's see how, I need the mouse in order to use the other camera. Let's see. Need to set up another button for this new webcam. Doesn't look like it's got good focus. So I'm using a straight stitch. I have a center needle position, and then I just turn the nut, which moves the guide wire over, and then the guide wire sits right off the edge of the fabric. needle do you think is the best needle for this fabric that we're about to sew? I'm going to sew back. This is going to be handled a lot and washed a lot. Come down and lower the needle. Lift the foot. Spin it around. I'm not all the way there. One more stitch. I don't know if I like that camera angle. Well, it's better than that one. A little closer to the edge than I want. And that's because I didn't use my glasses. Now you just push toward the foot. So you push toward the foot and then it pushes back the other way. Another way of getting that to stay put would have been to use the liquid-based glue to hold it down. What's making that stick? Come down and then it just has this pretty little straight stitch. Take and you want right sides facing out for both. And I'm going to go around and sew a stitch to keep it all together. This doesn't have to be very precise. I'm going to have it go a little bit further in though. However, the liquid-based glue would hold this in place. Stop with the needle in the down position. Lift and turn. So if you've struggled before to keep your stitch maintained a distance away from the edge, know that you are not alone. And this fabric is really sticky. So we have a sticky regular fabric and a sticky other fabric. I'm just going to skip the lowering the needle because the guide is going to keep me in the exact same position. So I don't have to lower the needle. Speeds things up. You can thank somebody who called me a couple weeks ago, or a week or so ago, for me teaching this. I don't know why this fabric is sticky. It has some kind of sizing in it. It would have been good if I washed this. It's a good idea to pre-wash your fabric for many reasons, and that is one. Some fabrics have sizing in them. This is definitely a stabilizer we don't want to keep in the fabric. And it's more for the sewing around the perimeter part, I think. Since I haven't made one, I'm analyzing this. So now you can see we have a pocket to put our hand in, and we want to end up with the rubber on that side. And when we turn it right side out, which we're going to do, so we want to go rubbery side to the right side, and now I can stitch all the way around this and it's not going to give me trouble because it's not going to stick to my foot. I also have to keep in mind that I need to turn it right side out. I'm trying to let my bangs grow out and it's in an awkward stage. You love using the glue, Valerie, so do I. Okay, think it through. Yep. Right sides together. Sew around. Leave a little space so you can flip it right side out. Now, had I thought about this and not sewn, nope, that wouldn't have worked. See, I thought I had a great idea. I was wrong. Now, all I need to do is make sure that I stitch past the stitching line that I used before. and I could sew on the upside down, so the sticky part that normally sticks to the machine is slippery. Get out of my eye. This is the side I would sew on. I'm going to sew on because I can see my stitching line and know that I'm going to, I think I'm going to move this over if I can. No, I can't. It's kind of a weird angle. So I'm about a little bit more than a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. I'm not going to start on a corner because it's just not a good idea to ever do that. And I'm actually going to start a little bit away from there and leave a turnout area. Turnout. So if you can't move your needle over, you can move the guide over, and that will allow you to actually shift your needle over. In this case, I want to make sure this thing doesn't fall apart, no matter how aggressive people are that use it. So I'm starting just about 1/2 inch away from the corner. Once again, you just push against the foot, and it pushes. So you push this way and it pushes back that way. Anytime I'm making something that's going to be over-handled, I do like to use a shorter stitch length as well. That way it's got less chance of falling out. Does the sound good? Are you guys able to hear me well? A binding would work. Yes. And another thing that I want to add is little loops so that I can hang it. See how it's going to be all ready. Oh well. I have lots of them I can make. This one won't have a loop, but the other person that I was speaking with, she had a great idea of sewing a magnet into the fabric so you could stick it on the refrigerator. I just don't have any of that magnet. It's like a magnet strip. So what do you guys think? This new camera, is it a good addition? That was me just not cutting it very well. Sounds good, good. And this camera looks good. It's not disturbing. Okay, so I should, and normally do, put a little clip so that I know where to stop when I have something like that. So my elbows are resting on the table, and this is my posture. I'm not sitting like this, having to look to make sure that the needle stays along the edge, because the foot sees for me, in essence. As you push towards the foot, it pushes back the other way, and it keeps you sewing in a straight path. If you put your hand behind and in front, what you end up doing is the foot then pushes the fabric away, and it's hard to keep the fabric up against the foot. So instead of a lot of handling, a little push with one finger, resting your body, and the foot does the guiding for you, so that you know that you're going to be accurate instead of hoping that you're accurate, which is why I'm able to sew while watching you instead of looking down there. Another thing that you might want to do, because of the octagon shape, is do a forward and reverse movement on each corner. I have a feeling it's going to be fine though. So do you guys sew like this now that you have the foot? Do you find yourself relaxing instead of this position? If you do, raise your hand or give me a heart or something. Let's switch. Let me find that other camera. go. Coming to the edge here and lift and turn. So you can lower your needle if you like, but you don't have to with the satin edge foot. This is where I'm going to have to stop. Take that clip out. And I want to only go a little bit into the next corner. This time I will lower the needle. Go one stitch further. Okay. Time to turn it right side out, but before I do, I'm going to clip each one of the corners. I can do that with scissors, or you can just take a little bit out of each corner. It's safer to use shears, but you do want to use large scissors, not your little scissors, because that's a lot of thickness and can bend your blade. Make sure you don't cut that thread. Where's the opening? There it is. But before we do that, we want to remove the whole light. Which, by the way, the reason, one of the great things about this is, if you can imagine ironing rubber, you could burn or melt the rubber. But hold light is lightweight and uses a light temperature. I used silk setting on the iron to iron it to the actual rubber so it didn't melt it at all. It's also fantastic for minky. I was thinking about making one with minky. Wouldn't that be nice and cozy to put your hand in? This would be a great hot pad as well. If you make it with quilted fabric, you've gotten so much better at not watching the needle. Isn't it great? I have people that go, at shows, they would come up to me and go, do you know that you don't have to watch the needle with your foot? And I go, yes. But they didn't realize they were not looking, and then they be like, wow, I'm not looking at the needle. Shocking. So, I don't know if this is a big enough opening. It is. But my thumb is still not normal after falling. It's getting there, but every time my thumb feels better, I do more. And then what do you think happens? So this is the best thing to use as a thumb. Think of this as a never mind, a strong hand as we make our rubber husband. It's going to be a pretty one. I can't wait to not use my plain old ordinary little circle that I have. So you can take your presser and shove it in there, and it's not going to damage the fabric. And because of what I make the pressers out of, they also don't stick to that. Where's the hole again? There it is. I got a song playing in my head. I also like the, so now it's like I can't move it at all. See that? It is stuck to the sewing machine. And this is the part where she was wanting help with what can you do to stop that from happening? And what needle is the best needle to stitch through this? I didn't say, did I? The principles behind the sewing machine needle, the science of it, is to get the needle to go down into the sewing machine so that that hook can come around and grab the thread from behind the needle. So if anything hinders the feeding and it just stops it on a dime, you can't move it at all, which is great, which is why it's so good for jars. And you could just sell them like this or make them like that and be done with it, but having a top stitch gives it extra class. So what am I going to do to make it not stick? What do you think? I'm going to iron another piece of Hold Light. Shiny side to the iron. This will also allow me to really crisp up the edges. I could use spray starch as well to make the edges really nice. And I'm still going to do some embroidery after this, you guys. The iron was off. Now it's back on to silk. Let it get warm. I'm trying to be neat and tidy. If you were to get your iron on the Hold Light, nothing really happens to the iron. You just peel it off. It's not an adhesive. It's not applique stabilizer, however it is. Because what I do is I iron the big part of the fabric that I'm going to put all my pieces on. I iron this onto it and it stops the applique fabric from sticking. So like I did the owl up there and it had it on the bottom and I was able to go around the teeny weeny little curves without the fabric sticking to the bed of the machine. Yes, a rubber husband. A cool looking one that you can put your hand in so you don't have to worry about holding it should you have limited mobility or only have use of one hand. And hey, you know what? It looks schwanky. It's a lot fancier than a square. Still want to make sure. Oh, speaking of these, the Caterpillar, I was just told yesterday they're being forced to raise their prices. They're raising their prices sometime in December. So if you're wanting to get one of the Caterpillar light tablets, now's the time to do it. Really, because I turned on a coupon today, 20% off as well, and free shipping. So there's no better time than to order, but you have to wait a few more weeks for them to get back in stock. Because every single size of the Caterpillar light tablets is currently sold out. They are now, I believe, making them in the United States. So they're going to be easier to get. I haven't stitched up this yet. And rather than stitching it up, I'm going to just fold it under. It's kind of hard to stitch this without it being first ironed to the Hold Light. I have pins. I'm going to pin it. I think that's like my second pin in a year. So this is the opening that I use to turn it right side out. And this is a bent pin. That's because I use them sometimes to pin things into the wall. I just want to have this. I have Teflon pins somewhere. I just don't know where I put them. Because Amy isn't here to help me. Okay, so we want to iron this first so it doesn't slip. Silk setting won't melt the rubber, but it does bond this to that. So now I can go ahead and press, and you can see I got it on my iron and nothing is on the iron. But you know what, it does cinder it, make it like a little bit, doesn't let the iron move. So I'm going to clear away the excess. What foot do you think I'm going to use to top stitch around this? This is a thick item now because it has 2 layers of the rubber, and in some areas 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of the cotton fabric. Which foot? So this is where I have to stitch it, and I want to make sure that I've got the rubber really nice. And I'm going to wrap it around because I just thought of it. That's going to hold it closed for me. Now if I had thought a little bit better, I could have had enough of that to hold it real nice. But think of that now. Every time you've ever had to close up something, you can use the hold light to fuse it closed as a temporary hold. Now I'm going to go ahead and increase to the cotton and get a really nice, clean, sharp press on this. Can even push steam through. And now this, once it's cool, will be slippery on the sewing machine. So if you were to take this directly to the sewing machine right now, it's a little bit warm, but it's still not sticking. Before I couldn't get it to move at all. Amy is right. The purls and piping foot is the better foot for when the edge of the item you're sewing is thick. You have that seam allowance that runs along the edge, and this foot has a tunnel, and it will help you guide right along that seam allowance, and it's designed to better handle thick fabrics. And it also has a washer that slides left and right on the snap-on bar. If you have a pearl foot or a piping foot and it doesn't have that, and you know you bought it from us, you would have 2 of these in your package. We used to sell 2, and you didn't have that. One moves everything over one way, and the other foot moved everything over the other way. So this just eliminated that and made it so we only needed 1 foot to serve the purpose of 2. I'm going to have my washer to the right so that my needle goes further to the left. And then because I have a snap-on foot machine, I just snap it on. But if your sewing machine does not have a snap-on foot, all of the creative feet come with adapters, like you see here, and you can screw one onto your machine, and then that turns your machine into a 7mm wide snap-on. This is a Bernina adapter on the foot, So if you have a Bernina, you can see this is how they go on the Bernina. If you have a FOF machine, and you have a wide snap-on bar, or the new Janome machine that has the similar science to the FOF, which has a 9mm wide bar, you can take your adapter off and use the adapter that has a B on it. And now your machine can share feet with the other sewing machines and also use the creative feet. I'm going to start where my stitch needs to be. And I'm going to increase my stitch length because I had it really tight before for increasing the viability and the strength of the seam. So you could also use some decorative stitches. I'm hitting the wrong button. There we go. Needle down, lift, turn, and down. And I'm not guiding. I can show you that this is why I use the pearls and piping foot for thick fabrics. This is how well it works for a bowl cozy as well. So if you're making bowl cozies and you're doing that final top stitch around, I still hold it with that because it's a different, it has a lot of stretchy elements to it. But that is why I use the pearls and piping foot for this, because the fabric stitching in it, the construction of this is guiding the fabric because of the unique patented shape of my tunnel on the pearls and piping foot. I designed this foot so that a woman who couldn't open her hands could sew pearls on. So I had to make sure that it guided better than any other foot. And at the time there was no other foot sewing pearls anyway. So back to the tight camera. And I'm doing this without hands. Needle down, lift, turn. Needle down, lift. It's actually very relaxing to just watch, and it's not an embroidery machine. It went in the pocket. It's like, oh, I think I'll go in there. It's nice and cozy in there. Needle down. Oh, I'm so glad the Facebook people are in here. So apparently it worked. It's just the restream thing is, I'll tell you, it's a tricky thing. If you want me to know your name inside of these things, you need to allow Restream to see your profile. And you do that inside of our Facebook page. There's little dots at the top. Or you can just say your name and go, hey, I am blah, blah, blah. And now I'm going to reverse. And we have a completed rubber husband. I have been wanting to use this fabric for something for some time now. With a unique twist, as my friend who only has use of one hand can now use this without having to, because this is not sticky, is it? Regular cotton fabric is slippery. So to remove the Hold Light, which is this stabilizer that's on top of this that allowed me to sew all the way around with the rubber side facing down without needing any Teflon sheet or spraying your machine with silicone, just using the right stabilizer, which is available at creativefeet.com or any dealer that carries our stabilizers. And here we go. So now it's a iron-on, tear away, permanent stabilizer. So If you were to sew this into something, it would forever sound like that. I accidentally left some of this inside of a placemat. If you're up against somebody at a craft fair and they have square, plain, non-pocket rubber husbands, you can charge more for yours, even though it really isn't harder to use this method than it is to do just a square. This is mostly just, I can't see that well. There we go. A completed rubber husband, which I don't have a jar here, but I can't move that at all. And if I didn't have my hand in the pocket, I have to hold it. And then my hand is at risk of sliding. So having the pocket makes it like a baseball mitt, and you can pick up things easier. I hope you like that. That's all we have for today. No, it's not. I decided to embroider a little bit because I am in the embroidering mood, and because it's holidays coming up and you can make a really cute one by customizing it, embroidering. You could even embroider someone's name on it so they know whose is whose, because you're probably going to be going, where's my rubber husband? Who took it? And it's like, I don't know who took it. That happens where I live right now. Like, what else can we use these for? So I'm going to embroider on this, and because we're using the pocket concept, think about this and have this one intended to be on the outside like that. If I cut the fabric and put the top of it inside, it can still look like the doghouse. Think I can do that? Let's see. Come on. Because the octi hoops are a window, that helps. Can't really get the whole image in there no matter what because the design is bigger. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to focus on the house. Just going to focus on the dog. And then I'm like, okay, so is there a better dog? Let's see. Because now we know it has to be short, right? And I think it's still going to be that one. You could also just have the dog's face be in there. Do you guys know what this is called? To be able to look through something. That's kind of cute. Off to the side too much. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with the dog that's laying down. And I'm going to not embroider using this hoop. I'm going to embroider using the next hoop up so that I can embroider close to the edge, and then I'm going to sew strips to increase the size of this so that I don't lose any of the actual dog. And what I'm going to use is our stick and tear stabilizer. This is the original adhesive back tearaway stabilizer for embroidery. And we use this for the octi hoops. I thought about making some out of this. And if you did, you could actually have a hot pad. So if you have a double layer of quilted fabric that's backed, then this would be double layer, this would be double layer, and then you would have that. You would actually have a pretty reliable hot pad to grab things out of the oven. But I couldn't use this for that. This has to be used for something more special. This is the stick and tear already open. And it has a paper release liner. The shiny side is the paper release liner. You guys didn't expect Rubber Husband Day to be Octi Hoop Day, did you? If you don't have an Octi Hoop, know this. I got a sweater with a hole in it, and I'm going to use my Octi Hoops to fix it. I hemmed beaded bridesmaids dresses without a foot. The Octi Hoops make it so you can create lace, do all kinds of things that you wouldn't be able to do with a foot. Because the Octi Hoops are in essence a foot. Because what does the foot do for you with regards to your sewing machine? I know Amy has the answer because you answered it last time I asked that question. I often wonder if any of you have an iron like this, and when my iron goes off, if you think your iron is turning off in your sewing room. I personally feel it's a lot easier to do this drawing on the stabilizer with a pen and then cutting with scissors. But thought I should show you that you can use the rotary cutter. Those of you coming in late, this is the Rubber Husband that I already made. And it has a pocket. So what I'm doing now is embroidering. And I want to think about how this is going to go. And I should lay it that way, shouldn't I? Yep. It's nice to have a window, be able to look through it so that you know how it's going to lay out. You did look to see if your iron was on. That's so funny. It's kind of like people put the doorbell in their commercials, and I get so mad every time because the dogs go nuts. And then sometimes in a movie, they have the fire alarms go off inside of the show, and my dog doesn't settle down till the next day. He's all nervous thinking that those alarms are going to go off again. Because I've had them go off all night long, you know. They always go off at like 3 in the morning. Haven't you noticed that? Now I take and place the hoop with the whole side down. This is the actual side that's designed for the stabilizer to stick to. And then peel back and fold the paper back a little bit and line it up. Then holding onto the hoop, I then pull, and I'm not expecting this to line up yet. The hoop is designed for the stabilizer to be able to come off of it and go back on it. Once you know you've got it lined up nice, you can rub it to secure it nicely, and then go across. I was trying to think of how my friend Terry, who only has use of one hand, did this. I know that I did not help her with any of it, so that we could say that she did it. So this is me not using both hands, just using one hand. My right thumb needs a break anyway. I have an area here that's kind of wrinkly. So should you only have use of one hand, you can do this with patience. And if you do only have use of one hand, odds are you got a lot more patience than most people. Well, there you go. I did that one-handed. Knowing that this is going to be at the top now of the pocket, I know that I don't need to worry about all the rest of that, and I can keep it close to the edge of the hoop. And I'm going to use this to go on the bottom, but of course I'm going to fold it. So I probably will have this one go on top of that one, or fold this under. No, I think I'll fold it like this. And I'm doing this just so that I have a really good idea of how this is going to lay out as a rubber husband. And it will be like that. In case I want to do something like, I don't know, get carried away and embroider a little circle, why not? So you can see the flexibility that these provide. Another thing is, see how this one has a yellow look in there, but this is going to be just white. So I will probably back this guy with more of that, so that on this side you see only that color. And I want him to be on top of that, so it's going to be like that. That's not enough. Is that enough? I'm gonna back this with this, so I'm going to leave that area raw. Okay, now it's time to pick some colors of thread. I already have some gold on, so I'll start with the dog's face. Are you guys having fun? Or are you tired and ready to end it? Do you want me to end the show, or I could just not do this right now? This is the Octi hoops, if you've never seen them before. I'm now going to remove my sewing machine's presser foot by turning the nut and removing the entire assembly. And I designed these Octi hoops so that everybody can do free motion. The hoop just slides beneath the sewing machine needle, and the feed dogs are able to be up. They will not interfere at all. You're sick, so you're falling asleep. I'm sorry you're sick, Amy. this little handle drops into the frame, and there are two that come with it. If you have a child and you want them to learn how to use these, you may want to have them use both handles, one on one side and one on the other, as they're getting the hang of it, so that there's no risk of them getting their fingers near the needle. I'm going to bring in the tight camera here. And I have the color that I think represents the dark tone. You can just go ahead and fill in the whole face with one shade of color. I'm lowering the presser foot, and I'm going to bring up the bobbin thread by holding my finger down on the thread. Look at that. Isn't that so much better? Except for I have nowhere to put my hands. So you put your finger down on the needle thread and do one stitch. Then bring up the bobbin thread. And it's just a straight stitch. Lower your thread tension one full number from whatever's normal. Mine was normal at 4. I lowered it to a 3. Because your sewing machine has no idea what you're doing. So it won't know what tension setting to use. Oops, let's see. So number 1, do not tell your sewing machine you're embroidering or doing free motion, because it's going to tell you you have to use a foot. So it's none of the sewing machine's business what you're doing. You're going to use a lighter tension on the thread, a straight stitch, and lower the foot even though there is no foot on the machine. And then you have to take charge of the thread tension, because the automatic function depends on you telling it what you're doing. So since it has no idea what we're doing, a one number less than normal thread tension should do it. I'm going to teach these again and do another video on these, because I watched my old video and it was broken in half because we had problems with the settings. But this is what I'm using for my elbow, and I would use it on the right side as well, but I have all this extra equipment here. And I got to put my hand in because I want you to see really well with my new camera that's right up close. This is just a straight stitch, and I hold on to this little handle and I draw with my hand resting on the sewing machine. There's this one hair that's going in my line of sight. So your hand down, and then you move your fingers, not this way. So it's resting, and just move your fingers, and don't squeeze that handle. It doesn't need you to, and don't push down at all on it in any way. And then you just start to draw. And there's things to consider in the movement so that it looks good. Pretend you're coloring in a coloring book. It actually wouldn't be a bad idea to color right before you do this. I'm going to keep my stitch design going up and down. And I'm putting my glasses on because I need to be able to see. I'm trying not to bump this camera. So elbows down, shoulders relax. Oh, I never said what needle, a stretch needle. If you're watching on YouTube, you should see the products listed below the video, and that is, I try to put what I'm using for each episode inside of their settings so that you know what you're seeing in the video is listed on their site. My thread got caught on my bobbin winder, which happens sometimes. Mostly because all kinds of things change each week. My thread is tangled up with a bunch of other stuff. I'm not sure how that all happened. The thread dispenser is very helpful for keeping the thread from getting caught in your machine and usually eliminates thread shredding. In this case, it actually caused the problem because Baby-like thought it was a great idea to put a knife on your bobbin winder. So my thread, I have a habit of putting my thread around that. And every once in a while it just moves a little bit and gets caught. If you don't have a good needle threader on your machine, we do have these fantastic little needle threaders to help you thread your needle if you have vision issues or your hands are not functioning as well as you'd like them to. Since I have a needle threader, I'm going to use it. This is the threader though. Get out of there. There we go. And they're cheap. These are really inexpensive. I don't know if you can see that little hook on there. And then it has a little hole to put your needle on to help you hold your needle while tightening it. You'll find those on our Creative Feet site as well. Remember, right now, member 20 takes 20% off your full order. And if you order over $69, you'll receive free shipping. That was the sound of my machine saying you didn't lower the foot. Because when the foot is not lowered, the tension discs are open. And that's what causes the bird nest. Since my needle thread broke, but I did not bring my bobbin thread or cut my bobbin thread, I don't have to bring it back up again. In fact, you can't get it to come back up again. So this is me just moving this hand, these fingers. I'll move it a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Sorry about that, I should have adjusted it without you having to watch. Trying to support the camera with my arm too. So it's just as if I'm using a crayon. And I like to outline after I draw. Now I'm going to go to the cheek, and I'm going to have the cheeks go left to right. Outline, and I'm going to try not to lose these elements. And then just fill it in. My speed control is set low, which you can do in the beginning, but after a while you'll probably go, this is too slow. I needed to go faster. And if you really want it to go faster, you can also use a zigzag stitch instead of a straight stitch. We don't want to lose our little whiskers. We don't need to fill this in a lot because there's fabric color beneath it. Just a nice added touch to the fabric for the top of our rubber husband. I was actually thinking about designing a cartoon character of a rubber husband, but I just thought the only way I could visualize it was a chubby husband, and not all husbands are chubby. But any cartoon character that you want to use, you can use it. Now I'm onto this cheek. So if you have an embroidery machine, you could design, you can use your embroidery machine to do a particular design. But a lot of times you'd still be getting set up. This is a lot faster. The machine runs, depending on your sewing machine, it's a lot faster to embroider with a conventional sewing machine. And if you have any questions, now is a good time to ask the questions. I'm uncomfortable, so I'm going to move the hoop. I'm going to spin it around. I can spin it in any direction that I like for getting more comfortable. I also find that it's easier to move the fabric away from you, and then you can see if you've got any spaces or holes that you haven't filled in well. Nobody's saying anything in the chat. Are you guys still there? Did I run too long? This is what I'm trying to say. So going side to side, I can't see the holes. Going up and down, I can see my spaces. And something is wonky. Yep. I did something. Oops. Still there. What do you guys have on your sewing table? Straight up and down, and oh, I have thread wrapped wrong way on top. Good rule of thumb is if ever you have a problem with your thread, don't just cut it and thread it. Rethread the top because sometimes it's not in the right way. Let me just see. I had it wrapped around twice in a spot up here and didn't realize I'd done that. All right, it's working. This tail is distracting me, so I'm going to clear that. I moved my machine over a little bit. There we go. Now you can see better. You're driving. If you're driving, you shouldn't be texting or communicating, Brenda. I don't want to know what you guys do. So, up and down, and it's okay if you feel like putting your hand on the fabric, but you don't need to push down. You can draw just like you would with a crayon, little small movements, and fill it in a little bit as you go. Or you can go long, straight movements up and down. A stretch needle is also really good for embroidery, by the way. And I didn't put a stretch needle on. I should have. If I did, I wouldn't have had the issues that I'm having. You guys gonna give Brenda a hard time? I think I should use the same color. Yellow for the whole dog's face. All right, I'm ready to just cut this one hair. It's tickling me. I have tremendous amount of static cling up here, or static. Yeah, see, my thread is not through the machine the right way, and I tried not to have to rethread it, which ends up making you have more trouble. It's one of those procrastinating things that you shouldn't do. I hope you're at least typing. it really warms my heart that you're hanging out. All right, lowering the foot, even though there's no foot on. Whoops. Okay, so his cheeks are going this way, and his chin is going up and down, which makes them appear to have different colors of thread. I'm pulling my hair away from my face. Now I could, instead of just going straight, I could shape his head and move the hoop like this to create another appearance. We don't have a lot of traffic here, so. But I remember sitting in my car when I lived in LA for hours. I get it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to move the hoop to kind of give it a head shape. If you were to do that and you want to not mess up, take and bring a pin in that irons away or first and draw lines to help you not lose track that you're trying to draw or sew in a curve. Elbows down, shoulders relaxed. Don't hold on to your tails like I'm doing here, because they'll just make you lose track of what you're doing. You don't have to go fast, by the way. If you think that I'm going fast because you have to, it's not. I'm going faster because I'm already running along in this show. I didn't have the handle in the hole all the way. I'm not sure if I even showed you that. So, whoop. The hole itself is not through. So, on the other side of the hoop, there is no hole. This camera is a great angle, but it's in my way. Okay, and there's no need to rush. Take your time. The slower the sewing machine runs and the faster your hand moves, the bigger the stitches. If you don't move the fabric, if you sit there, it'll just keep sewing without moving, and then you're likely to break your thread. I keep having trouble with this spool of thread. Sometimes it's just the spool of thread, the way it got wound. So right now my hand is over here, and this camera isn't as far back as having trouble knowing what to focus on because it's just a cheapo little webcam. That's what I'm doing, and to spare you from it trying to focus, I'm going to go ahead and Hopefully it can focus. Come on, figure out what you're supposed to look at. Switch camera. Sometimes you just need to switch it. Now you're just going to be a trouble. Alright, I'm going to switch cameras. This angle shows you where you can see my hand back here, and I'm holding onto the handle. And my left elbow is sitting on my elbow pad. I'm going to switch. And you can see if the fabric then is covering the handle, then I just kind of gather it up. What are you getting caught on? This spool is just not unwinding the way that they normally do. It's not the hoop's fault. I can usually go and go and go and go without having any trouble. So I'm just pulling the thread through to make sure there isn't a damaged area in the thread. Better to find out before you sew. So I gather up that fabric and lower the foot. I don't know if that camera has decided what it's going to focus on yet. Cut the thread. Drawing lines, yes. Well, that's the first thing I taught was machine embroidery. Free motion before I invented the hoops. So we used to use a round hoop, and you couldn't embroider directly on a garment because the garment wasn't held well. So when my father invented the hoop-it-all, I saw how he created the hoop to have the stabilizer become held by it, and thought, oh my gosh, a free motion hoop using a stabilizer like this would allow you to embroider on a garment for the first time. Free motion. So the octi hoops were born because of my dad's invention. However, a round hoop didn't work. A square hoop didn't work. The only shape that would hold the garment and keep it from puckering was this octagon shape. Getting too close to my finger. So I move out of that and go over to this one. So if you don't choose a stitch direction and maintain it, your stitches will look as though you're a young child that's just learning how to color. They have scribbles going different directions. Go slow as you feel you need to go, by the way. If you go too fast and your eyes can't focus, then you'll not do as good a job. For those of you just joining us, this is Fabrically Speaking Live, and I am showing you how to embroider on a regular sewing machine see if I could see if this other camera is focused yet. And this is why I don't use these types of cameras usually, because we have to lock in a focus. So see, I heard it sound funny and pulled on the thread, and then you see I got a messy area. It's good for you to see that I have issues as well sometimes. But just so you know, it's not the adhesive, there's no adhesive on this needle. This is just the way that the thread is wound on the spool. See, I'm starting to go straight instead of curved. That little pink line helped me remember. And I feel like I can add a little bit to his chin. I'm going to take a little ride down the face without having to stop and tie a knot. I can't wait to change color. This thread is just not that good. All right. The best thread to use in the bobbin for free motion is the nylon lingerie thread. However, you can match your thread to the needle should you want to embroider on a see-through material like chiffon. Where's my cutter? And I did not change my bobbin thread. So what are the reasons why we want to go with a thread that's lighter or thinner when doing embroidery? Thread painting, yes. We used to call it thread painting. But it's really embroidery. And you can use the Invisifill thread in the bobbin. It's only 100 weight, and so it doesn't take up a lot of space on the back side of your fabric. So I have some areas here that where the thread was too thick on the bottom. That's what was causing my issue. I totally forgot to change my bobbin thread because we went from sewing to embroidery. Can you see his face? Now, I don't know how you guys are feeling right now, but I could stop, and you've already learned how to make one of these rubber husbands. If you're coming in now, it is well into the show. I'm almost at 2 hours, and I try not to go that long anymore. So I'll probably film the rest of this and record it and then upload it as a separate video so that you guys can enjoy actually seeing me complete this and not have to endure it right now. I can feel your tummies getting hungry and know that some of you probably have some food cooking right now. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I sure hope you'll do so today. I also have a school called Create with Claire Rowley. The links to the school and to creativefeet.com, where you can pick up a set of octahoops and embroider on any fabric, any design, without having to spend a fortune on embroidery designs, or buy fabric, as I'm doing here today, that already has a design on it and embroider over it to create different things for your loved ones for Christmas. I look forward to making a variety of these rubber husbands for different people in my life. And this is my design where you don't have to hold it. You wear it by just sliding your hand into this little pocket. And with that, this is the end of this episode of Fabrically Speaking Live. And next week, I am hoping that the invitation that I send you, the link that I do using their website, will actually take you right to the correct video, and you won't have to be searching at the beginning of next week's show. And there will be another show next week, and some more videos popping up between now and then. You can expect maybe 3 different videos a week starting now. I look forward to also starting the Creative Feed Extensive. And Amy, I haven't forgotten the stocking. It's just a video that I need to record rather than go live with. And this hair has driven me crazy. So that hair is why I'm stopping now. It keeps going right into my eye. I must be meant to end the show. I love you guys. See you next week. this.